Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and we are back again with another PWCC/Now Fanatics weekly review where I go through the top 100 soccer items auctioned off every single week. If you enjoy these videos, do make sure to leave a like, helps me help the channel, would appreciate it greatly. But with that said, let's go ahead and get on over there. And noticeably this week is much lighter than basically any other week we've ever seen, presumably due to the holiday weekend sort of being the downtime of the year, maybe less people incentivized to sell, also less people out there with the eyeballs to watch, so people probably know that. But yeah, the weeklies leading up to this were fairly good, so it sort of seems like an anomaly. I guess we'll see if that is the case to be, but all that to say that we will go through this fairly quickly. So let's go ahead and do that. We start on the first page. Take your pick between these two base cards of Haaland. Personally, I like the finest, just given that this is the Champions League release, and I don't really think of that as much when it comes to the rookie Haalands. Above that, we'll just scroll fairly quickly. If anything catches my eye, then we'll stop there. I hadn't seen this person before, or at least heard the name, and Bill McCracken sounded like a pretty good one, so I looked it up. He was a box-to-box midfielder for, I want to say Newcastle, damn. I sort of forgot. I think it was Newcastle, but I think he definitely won 3 titles back in the day. So I checked the wiki just to make sure, but it was Newcastle. Basically, their heyday. I didn't know that they were really that good back in the day, but they had won like 3 titles in 7 years, something like that. So he was a key figure for them during that time, and, you know, a nice card. I presumably would guess for $55. Pre-war UK is not my specialty and probably won't ever be. I don't know. I'll flirt with it and maybe see what happens, but at the same time, I don't really have a lot of knowledge of early English football, and also it's just a really developed space with a lot of collectors, and so it's really its own thing, and so I respect it. I love it. I'll learn a little, but not something I partake in too much at the moment. Next to it, we have a Figo from the 98 set that probably is remembered for Xavi rookies. $55 there, doesn't seem bad. Above that, we got Cristiano Ronaldo Haaland. This Conte actually sold for like double what some of the lower sales have been for this one, so that wasn't a bad sale. Above that, a Klose PSA 8. I thought this Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 6 might have been low, but that's actually about what they go for at this point. I would have assumed anything early career Ronaldo, even in low grade, would have attained this price, but this is one of the lower grades you'll see. And then that rounds out the first page. So the first page was probably a dud, I would say, generally, but the second page has some okay ones. We're starting off here at the 98 Thierry Henry. I actually thought that this looked like just a fun collectible price. I know everyone's down on things that are actually available and no one wants to collect anything that other people could own, but you know, Panini World Cup stickers are a classic. A PSA 9 super tough. I looked at sales on this, and I don't think a PSA 10 has ever sold of this, so presumably a 9 would be the highest you're probably going to get. And if you're a World Cup Panini sticker collector, that would be a fun one, I would guess. You know, it's not a sticker I've thought about buying in a long time, but these actually raw go for like $20-30. Now that's on US eBay, so maybe on Europe eBay it goes a little cheaper, but I mean 60 doesn't seem like a price that's going to get you burned all too much, but obviously no financial advice. That's not really an investment card or what I would think of an investment sticker, just a fun one for a collector if you're into that type of stuff, and Panini stickers are pretty universal. Next to that, the Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 9, that's about what they go for. I looked that one up. Above that we have a Thierry Henry. We'll look up another one later, but these have been falling in price a good bit. Next to it we have a Magic Box Ronaldo SGC 7, an early fairly plentiful card, but usually not greatly graded. This KDB auto, always just, you know, so tough with the modern autos and how these players just basically don't even try. I mean, if you didn't know this was KDB's auto, I mean, there's no way in the world you could put that together. So, I mean, that type of stuff to me is just almost unappealing, but I get that everyone has their own opinions on it. Above that, a Caniggia rookie from, what is that, 88 Euroflash. PSA 8 goes for 86. This Zidane seemingly sold a little low. These, the stars of this set in PSA 10 in the past, I would see like 100, 150. So 86 for Zidane from 2006 doesn't seem bad. Obviously a memorable World Cup for him, or I guess for us, maybe not for him. But above that, we have some fairly common stickers you'll see here. This Lionel Messi. We also have this Beckenbauer that is graded fairly decent a good amount of the time, goes for $96. This Hadji from 87, wanted to look that up because, you know, it's a Hadji rookie PSA 7. It is Calciatore, but in regard to recent prices, the last one actually sold for $45 on eBay. You know, again, this type of sticker I do feel gets more eyes on Fanatics, so probably is less likely to slip through the cracks like it may on eBay, and seemingly did so there. Before that, the sales were 100, these are all best offers, and then 90 and 42 all the way back in 2022. So this one actually selling somewhat decent. I guess that $45 sale isn't even that bad compared to 2022. But a sticker that's doing A-okay, I would say, for a Panini Calcio. I'm surprised we don't see more high grades of these come out. Maybe it just hasn't happened yet. Could also be the green border that's causing that. So then we have a PSA 5 Merlin's Cristiano Ronaldo, goes for nearly 100. We have the Copes Clips Percy Sands from Arsenal. PSA 5 goes for 101, essentially. Next to that, we have a 2006 Modric from Navarrete. This is a PSA 5. It says rookie. Modric does have 2005, 2006 stickers, if I'm correct. So not a rookie there, but second year. Navarrete, if I remember correctly, is a Venezuelan sort of release. I could be wrong on that. If I am, someone correct me. But generally, at least for those, they seem to be somewhat common. I mean, not plentiful, not everywhere, but if you want them, you could find them. Now, looking up here, if we just try to find some sales that we can find raw, this year there have been maybe 6 or 7 sales. They've started to trickle out. They weren't really around before that, or at least appearing on open market. And this sale seemingly pretty decent, 105. An SGC 8 on a Fanatics Weekly did 93 just prior, and raw sales are usually, 20 to 50 bucks probably. PSA 8 back here for 252, so a 5 for 105 doesn't seem bad. Above that, we have a Ronaldo PSA 8 from the 2008 Panini Champions League set. This is a pretty nice looking foil here. I actually have never had one of these in hand, so I'm not sure how foily this is or what's going on exactly, but went for 110 in PSA 8, which didn't seem bad. Looked it up, and last PSA 8 sale was 110 as well in September, so basically smack dab on that price. Then we have a PSA 5 before for 50 and some raws for 40 to 50 bucks, so gets a little bit of a premium, but nothing too crazy for an 8. Don't see those all too often. Pop 1 of 12, 6 higher, so, not fairly easy in high grade. We have a messy PSA 9 here from Select 2015 next to that, and a red out of 199. And then finishing out this row, we have Michael Jordan, one of the best soccer players ever, along with Rodri out of 49 patch auto, and we have a 1926 Hoffman PSA 1 that goes for 110. Next page, we start with a couple messies here. 2022 Topps Merlin Chrome Renaissance PSA 10, or a select multicolored Prism from 2017, and a PSA 10 next to that one. For me, I'm not a big 2020 and beyond guy, but I will say I'd probably prefer the Renaissance here. This is sort of Topps' interpretation of stained glass, and at least I believe it's a case hit. Again, I don't follow 2020 and beyond too closely, but it is one that's always sort of stuck out with me. I know people hate on certain kits, and I personally understand it, but I also think it's a bit much because, honestly, people were going crazy for Inter Miami kits, and at the end of the day, I think PSG kits are cooler than Inter Miami. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe other people disagree, I'm sure there are, but as much as I am a kit guy, I do think the clubs that people go to at the end of their career for a couple years are kind of cool to see, and, typically you don't get that many cards now in 2022. You're getting a lot of cards, so maybe not so much, but, this select multicolor really doesn't stand out for me. Now, obviously, if you're a select collector, you want to build the rainbow, all that good stuff, then I get it. All that to say, I like the Renaissance here at 112. Doesn't seem crazy. Above that, Lewandowski auto here. This is sort of an oversized, not a postcard, I don't think. I'm pretty sure that's like an oversized sticker. PSA 9 of Cruyff goes for 115. We have a 1970 Pele here from Editora Saravan. PSA 1 goes for 120. Above that, Michael Ballack, PSA 9 for 126. We have this Maradona, the one for what I feel is a decent price, 132 for that, and a PSA 2. Not the most aesthetically pleasing, but, it is a fun caricature if you're into that type of stuff. 2019 Erling Haaland. This had a moment in the sun at one point in time. We have a 54 Cosmos here of Puskás, or at least he's within the action shot, and goes for 132, and a PSA 8. These grade fairly high and sort of is a set where there's a lot of different photos going on, so one of many, but it is an early Puskás still, at least early in terms of, plentiful cards that you can actually attain. 1930 Cliff Baston here, PSA 4, goes for 144. In the row above it, we have a 96 Thierry Henry Panini Mejores Equipos de Europa of a PSA 7 rookie, goes for 144. Seemed a little light, so I looked this one up, and it definitely was. Last one was 156, so fairly close, but in the summer, 210, 276, 444. And yeah, they've continued to drop since 2023, and even before then, I would think that they were higher than that. They sort of had a huge moment in 2022/2023, and the pricing has continued to dip. Now, this is one where you can sort of ask, why is that the case? And personally, as someone that sort of followed this from before people really knew that it was a thing to it being, the hot topic of pre-modern to now sort of falling backwards, what I would say is just that this, before people were really hunting it, was maybe like a, $10, $20, $30 sticker, something like that. Then people went really crazy for it, went into the multi-hundreds for decent grades and even above that and higher grades. And at the end of the day, it is a Panini sticker. More of them are going to come out. It's sort of the natural ebb and flow of all this. And so yeah, it looks like a low price, but 144 compared to 20, 30 bucks back in the day is still a lot higher, but it definitely is no $500. And so, it's really difficult with soccer because some things seemingly have bottomed, some things haven't, some things have reversed, and, knowing what's what is difficult. And just generally, I would say pre-modern might be one of the latest to actually reverse courses because at the end of the day, it was one of the latest to boom and also has a good amount of supply, at least compared to, modern where you have numbered cards, so they're somewhat rare in individual cases, and vintage where things just aren't as easy to find. So pre-modern has been struggling, seemingly still continues with this sale here. Will that continue, or how long will it continue? Obviously, we'll keep an eye. Certain things have gone the other way, like we say that, but Messi rookies seemingly are doing good, so that's pre-modern. So just because something's pre-modern doesn't mean that that's happening, but I would say the more niche pre-modern players, or not even like niche, but sub-stars, goats, are going to struggle a little bit more seemingly. They also, again, boomed a little bit later. Messi obviously was one of the first to go. So, 2009 Topps Premier League Cristiano Ronaldo's foil. This is a PSA 9 that goes for $150. Next to that, we have an Estampas pack that I did not win from 1978. I threw a bit on this late and sort of forgot about it, so I probably would have won a little bit higher. I have the 77 pack and the 78 crack pack, but I don't have this one, so I would have liked to have added it. But $156 there seems like a good price, at least compared to, another sale we'll see here in a second. Above that, we have a Luka Modric Blue Pulsar that went for $156. I looked that up because $156 seemed cheap, but actually it's about what they go for. Raw $143. I definitely would take a PSA 9 over a Raw, I'll say that much. But yeah, PSA 9 right there, $150, PSA 10, $384, and like $690 back in the day. So I guess that's about where they're at. To me, Modric seems like a standout within the set. Also, Country Kit is pretty cool for Modric. Some other players maybe less so. I think it's a good one, and if you were the winner, congrats. I think that was a decent play at the price point. I will say Blue Pulsar, not my favorite personally, because it's unnumbered and a little different, but 2014 is a difficult set to really hone in on something because, the golds are obviously going to be insanely difficult, insanely expensive. The green crystals are fun, but they're fairly rare. And then after that, you go to the 99. So it's a nice middle ground. But next to that, we have a Donnarumma Kaboom that goes for $156. We have this 1995 R9 PSA 7. Of course, always love the photo there. Goes for $156. We have the Crack PSA 6 pack. This went for $162. That's why I thought the Estampas was maybe a little light. It was a grade higher. And the Estampas sells probably for about as much as the Crack nowadays, or at least, in some scenarios even more. Now, with the Crack pack, you do have two opportunities as opposed to the Estampas where you have one, so weigh that however you will. I don't think that was a crazy price either there. We have a Pentagonal Pele for $174, SGC1. I mentioned this set a couple times the past couple weeks because some have sold. There's a one base Pele, 8 sort of playful Pele photos. This is one of the playful Peles, goes for nearly $200, pop one of one, just one higher. 2022 Finest Flashbacks Black out of 15 Messi goes for $174 and a PSA 10. Then we have a second year Beckenbauer Auto goes for $180. The Camo out of 249 Select 2015 Messi Variation goes for $186. And then finally in this row we have the 1967 Pele Panini Calciatore SGC5 that goes for $186 as well. And that takes us into the top page. So $200 to get into the top page usually takes as much to get into a weekly, or at least somewhere near there. But we start with a Patrice Evra PSA 10 rookie from 2001 foot. Goes for $200. Seems like a pretty good price. It is pop 1 of 2, but this type of stuff you always have to wonder. Of course, there's more. How many more? They'll come out, and we'll find out in due time. $200 feels like a good, strong, but not, I guess, absurd price, but at the same time, you do wonder with fakes. PSA 10 Benzema's go for like $100. Now, of course, there's the fakes and all those types of worries, but I'd rather have a PSA 10 Benzema than a PSA 10 Patrice Evra in a vacuum where the fakes aren't a huge problem, but just throwing it out there. We have a Hoffman and Hoffman here from 1926 Greeling PSA 2 that goes for $200. We have a Frankie de Jong PSA 10 Kaboom for $210. Above that, this Raymond Kopa King Chewing Footballers. A really nice looking one. Always a standout in vintage to me in terms of photography. Just a beauty there. Some pretty striking colors with the kit. You also have the nice leather ball, a nice green, vibrant background, the blue sky, the barn in the background. It's just beautiful. To me, this is one of the standouts that I always think of in terms of beauty and vintage, along the same lines of like a Beckenbauer rookie. Just something that, is very stunning, hard to forget. Goes for $210. I did look up comps on that earlier in the week, and a 1MK recently did like $70 or $80, so seemingly that was a pretty good price comparatively. We have a 1962 J. Dias Campos of Garrincha, number 119, PSA 2 goes for $216. This was one that I hadn't really taken note of prior, but has sold a couple times, typically cheaper than this, so this seemed like a pretty good price. Now it is just a pop, one of two higher, goes for $216 there. Really, really nice looking one, at least in my opinion. Obviously, I'm a Garrincha guy, so I'm a little biased, but definitely unique, I would say, in design. Next to that, we have a Rodrigo PSA 10 for $252. Above that, we have a Beckham PSA 9 for $276. I took a peek at this just to see where the prices were, and surprisingly, not as many have sold as I would have thought. Only 8 results, which is kind of shocking, but almost all of them between $250, $350, somewhere in there if you look at all these sales. So this seems to be sort of right in line for an auction price, which is a pretty good result, I would say, generally for David Beckham. Some of his other stuff has fallen lately just because some of the post-rookie stuff was doing fairly well comparatively, I thought, and that sort of come back down with a lot of supply hitting the market. But the Merlin stickers are doing a-okay, at least compared to the prices we were seeing there. A Zebra Messi out of 25, select field level, goes for $300. We have a David Beckham Kaboom, so take your pick, PSA 9 Kaboom, or you get the rookie sticker and PSA 9. I mean, it seems fairly easy to me, but obviously, to each their own. Bukayo Saka PSA 10 goes for $372. We have a Cristiano Ronaldo patch auto that goes for $432, along with a Erling Haaland. Now this is a BGS 10, so this is a little different. The PSA 10's got as low as $200, have seemingly gone back to $300, and this BGS 10 gets close to $500, which is a pretty good price, I would say. Heung-min Son PSA 10 Kaboom goes for $516. We have a Father's Day Kylian Mbappe out of 50 for $660. It doesn't strike me as a really high price, but I'm not too familiar with these cards in particular, and I didn't look it up, honestly, just because, it's 2018 Father's Day. I don't count these as rookies, and I don't really want to talk about them ever, but all that to say, $660 for a card I've seen so many people push because of the rookie card logo. Doesn't seem crazy, but again, I don't like the rookie card logo in this scenario, so that's just me. 2023 Violet Speckle Refractor Lamine Yamal out of $299. PSA 10 goes for $720. Wanted to look this one up just to see what the Lamine Yamals were doing, and in this example, not great. So this one was $720. Before that, we have nearly 1,000, nearly 1,000, 1,400, 1,000, 1,400, 1,400, 1,300. So since October 1st, this is down almost 50% over a couple months, and that's almost always going to be the case. Whenever you have these new guys that everyone loves and adores, ultimately, these manufacturers are going to make more cards than we can buy. They just are. So unless we have specific things that we like a ton, a lot of things are just going to sort of get devalued by competition of other items. And beyond that, you also have the factor that people could just sort of lose some excitement for a player, which is natural. That's going to happen. When you win a Euro at 17, it's kind of hard to do better than that. What can you do from there? And that was always my sort of curiosity with Lamine Yamal is what's the next thing? Because, Mbappe is almost the World Cup top goal scorer all the time, and there's people in my comments saying that doesn't even matter, which, to be fair, it probably doesn't. Miroslav Klose, no one talks about him, so it's in and of itself, it's not the thing, which is sort of the same thing with Lamine Yamal. Yeah, winning that was great, but he has to do a lot more, and it's going to take time. And during that time, they're going to print tons of cards, and it's the state of modern. And as much as I wish that these could go up in price, I just don't see it happening. Now, could that change? Sure, at some point in time, possibly. But usually, the top guy that everyone's looking at doesn't have a lot of upside because everyone's already looking at him, especially if you're a 17-year-old prospect. Beyond that, this row, I don't have a whole lot to talk about with these two Judes. We got a Kaboom PSA 10 and a 1 of 1 that might be from the Topps base set, but I would guess maybe not. It might be from like a knockout sort of subset that I don't know of. This is sort of where I also struggle with modern, is there's just lots of rare cards that I have no clue where they came from, and most people just want rare cards. They probably don't even care as much where it came from, and so for me it's just so blurry. But, $810 on this seems like a decent price. We got 1958 Pele Monty Gum PSA 2 that goes for $810 as well. Look that one up to see where that's been. And, right around the last price. But if we go back even further during the boom, as high as $2,000 to $5,000 a couple times. And pre-boom, these had sold a decent bit for usually $300 to $400. So they're up double from pre-boom. They're down, 80-90% from the peak, but what isn't, especially when you have like crazy sales like this? To go from $400 to 5.5 grand, you're kind of asking for the downside to be there. I mean, again, sort of like with the prospect, hard to imagine there's much more upside. I mean, should these be 50 grand? Should we be talking about this Pele as a 50 grand Pele? I guess the picture's not going to load, but now again, 2021, you had to compare to different prices. It wasn't as easy, but like, man, that is a pretty steep price, and again, doesn't really shock me that they've come down in good ways, especially one like this that I wouldn't assume is all that desirable. But and then we get into the top 6 this week. 2 pre-war, which thankfully, since it wasn't a loaded week, pre-war had a little bit more of a shot. But the layout out of 10 Kaboom goes for $930. To me, I mean, I'm not a Kaboom guy, as we've sort of gone through. What Ultra Modern confuses me, but out of 10 Kaboom gold layout, I mean, for $930 doesn't seem crazy. Now, I do imagine that if it had the full bleed background, people would be a lot more gung-ho about it. But yeah, I mean, I prefer this to the one-of-one Topps Knights, Champions League Knights, or whatever that is that we've seen floating around in these auctions the last year. I think this is cooler, but that's just me. But next to it, we have a 1925 Manoli Joseph Pottinger PSA 6. This is the first Manoli, at least from my understanding, what I read in the Vintage Discord. Again, link down below. Learned a little bit about that from the Discord. But yeah, this Manoli is a pretty rare, and from what I understand, the earliest set in Germany to basically have soccer rookies. And so Pottinger is a fairly relevant, I mean, one of the most relevant players within the set. Also has 2 of these within the set, so there's this, and there's sort of like a more natural portrait that you would expect to see. The back looks pretty good, but I mean, for a 6, kind of looks a little suspect down there. Also has whatever this is. I don't know if this is staining or like chipping going on, but it seems like a lot. For a 6, especially when it has like rounded corners as well. So maybe it was a little overgraded. I don't know exactly in comparison to the set where it would rank, but like if that type of stuff existed on a modern card, it's not getting a 6. Nonetheless, really cool card to see. I've only seen a few of the Manolis over the last maybe year or 2 on eBay of different players, so trying to get one in particular is going to be insanely hard, hence why it gets a really good price, also with a really high grade there. Really cool to see that in a weekly. Next to it, we have a 1924 Puck Van Heel PSA 1 MK rookie as well. I had never heard of this player, but of course I had to look it up, and essentially he was a Feyenoord player that played like 300 or 400 games, won a ton with the club. He also was one of the most capped Dutch players for the time. I think he had like 60 or 70 caps, so something ridiculously high for the era. I believe a defender, but definitely a captain of whatever team he was on at the time, and this apparently, from, again, reading the Discord, is one of only a few of these to have ever been found. The other 2 are apparently in one person's collection, so this is one of just a few known copies, hence why a player that probably most of you have never heard of in a PSA 1 MK goes ahead and gets $1,000 there with only 11 watchers. So obviously few watchers, but few very dedicated watchers at that. And so then we get into the top 3 of this week. Sort of lackluster compared to most weeks, but I warned you. We have a PSA 9 Messi out of 149 that goes for $1,500. As you can see over here, looking at some comps here for what we could find. We do have a fixed price sale earlier this year at 2K, which of course fixed price is always going to do more than auctions, but the last auction price was essentially right on the dot for this number as well. Before that, a little bit higher at 17. And before that, really can't find anything in terms of comps for this specific grade, this specific card, but I'm sure it comps in other ways. Nonetheless, seems like a fair price there at $1,500 for that card. Next to it, we have the Select Terrace White Sparkle Lamine Yamal rookie PSA 10 for $23.40. Don't know comps on that one, but again, seems like an okay price. And finally, a 2024 Topps Chrome PSG Blue Lionel Messi auto out of 35 PSA 10 goes for $3 grand. Again, I'm going to say I think that's a pretty good price. 2024 Topps Chrome Messi is not at PSG anymore, so to me, I don't quite see the meaning of this auto in particular. If I'm missing something, let me know, but it is a Messi PSA 10 auto numbered out of 35, which is always going to do good money and does so again here. $3 grand on that one there, and that ends out this weekly. As for next week, we will take a peek. I don't think it's a much more stellar of an auction. I say that, but then we have 271 Bisses and a Topps Dynasty Messi right off the rip, so maybe it's a little bit better. Maybe I'm downplaying it. We have a Schiaffino there, along with a Superfractor of Neymar with the Maradona shirt. That's a pretty cool one from back in the day. I say back in the day, it was a few years ago, obviously, but 1/1 Jude. Actually, that's Mukuku, I lied. We have a treble Vinicius BGS 9 purple, Cristiano Ronaldo tie-dye, Messi blue, Superfractor Musiala. So yeah, I would say next week's a little bit better of a week comparing backwards. But as always, if you enjoyed this weekly, do make sure to leave a like. Again, I appreciate it greatly. If you guys have anything you want to tell me, things you thought sold high, low, maybe something you snagged, would love to see it down below in a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.